up is at zero.
Is yours do you have an active
Yeah, yeah.
pickup?
This has two batteries in this space.
Okay.
So, but I can make it passive by doing this. I can pop that switch off, and now it's just like yours.
What's the advantage of having an active pickup
So
system?
the biggest advantage when you're playing live is that you can EQ from the bass. You don't have to go back to your amplifier and do it. So
Okay.
generally the way I work that, now people have different ways of doing it, but I think the most productive for me is that I set everything flat on my bass. So like everything is zero on my EQ. And then I get the best sound I can from the amp I'm playing with. And then I tweak just a little bit from the EQ here. And as I'm playing, if I need a little bit more of this or a little bit less than, of something else, depending on the kind of song I'm playing, I'll make adjustments here. I don't have to go back to the amp and do it. So it affords me that thing about not having to go back to the amp and make changes if I need to. That's the biggest thing. All right, because I have bass, mid-range, and treble that I can boost or cut. And I also have what they call dip switches inside this bass that I can adjust the frequencies that I'm boosting and cutting. I can select which ones I want. And then I can control them here. Now these switches here are just like they allow the pickups to be parallel or in series, just the way they interact with each other without going into too much detail about what that means. Right?
Yeah, I have an idea what you're talking about.
Okay. And then, if I pop the passive out, then this knob here, just controls the pickup selection like your switch does. If I go all the way this way, it's this pickup. But I can blend this one in until it gets at that little midway point. Then they're both on evenly, and then I can blend this one out and just go to this one. So I can kind of sweep in between the two of them. So with my switch popped out and then passive like yours, these two knobs work. All the rest of the stuff doesn't work. It's just shut off.
Right. Okay.
So a lot of times in recording, it's better to go passive because that allows the engineer to do what he needs to do. If you send like a signal junked up with a bunch of EQ and stuff, then he can't do anything with it but turn it down. So, if you want a good sound in the mix, it's not a good idea to throw a bunch of junk at him. Just give him a bare bones signal, let him do it.
Gotcha. Yeah.
All right. But anyway, on that bass,
okay,
I would run the tone control and the volume control all the way up at all times. Because that tone control, you're not adding treble. It's basically a treble roll-off is what it is. What it does is it takes treble at a flat response at zero and diminishes that frequency. It doesn't add frequencies. It just subtracts from zero. So when you're all the way up, you're at zero. You're not adding or subtracting that frequency. You're at unity gain. So usually with passive instruments, running everything all the way up and then, running from your, do everything from your amp.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Now, this also invites you. If you wanted to have an active system, you have two ways to go. You can actually have active electronics put in that bass, or you can buy a preamp pedal and run through that pedal and do it that way. They have pedals designed for that.
Okay, yeah.
That's a way, like, if you didn't want to screw around with that bass and, have them switch stuff out, you wouldn't have to do that. You could just buy one of these preamp pedals and do it that way.
Control that way. Yeah,
I'm just saying, that's
at some point.
I'm just explaining to you kind of how the process, might work. Now, you may be totally satisfied with the passive sound on that and never have a need or desire to get an active system. It's certainly not required. I mean, there's thousands of bass players out there making great livings without active electronics. Mm-hmm. But having the active electronics gives you more to work with on the instrument. That's what it does. And on this bass, having the option of shutting that off gives me even more. I can have the best of both worlds. So if somebody prefers a passive signal from my bass for whatever reason, sure, there you go,
It just gives you a lot more flexibility.
Yeah, and being a professional bass player, the more versatile I am, the more opportunities, I'm going to have available to me. So.
Mm-hmm.